Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast Seeking the Light of a Thousand Suns. Today, we are going to be talking about magical personalities and the personas we create to do magic, as well as the gifting and creating of your magical name or your holy name. These are going to be amazing topics to help you really personalize the experiences that you have when you are doing magic. I'm so glad to be here with my co host, and I can't wait to see what magic we create together. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Fabulous.
Awesome. Let's start with the magical persona. When do you think it's appropriate to start creating your magical persona? Because that's actually a controversial thing. So let's jump right into controversy.
Well, let's. The way I learned was to create that right away in the very beginning. The idea behind that was to help with the change of the altered states of consciousness, to be able to go into alpha, to be able to cut out the mundane, to be able to be as free as you want without all of your mundane baggage attached to your mundane personality.
Yes. And by mundane, we mean, for those of us just tuning in to this podcast, mundane means non-magical. It does not mean boring or anything like that. It just means the non-magical aspects of your life. Most people are not magical when they go to the grocery store. Some of us are. Some of us find broccoli to be absolutely mythical, but that's just a few of us.
I didn't even know what a magical personality was. I just assumed that part of myself was just another one of my personalities. Just that it was there. I've never been trained.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an untrained, non-studied witch, and that's so. Learning about magical personalities through Maya has been fascinating. It's just a challenge for me because that's not something I've ever used prior. And so it's for me, it's unlearning how I already make those connections with now associating them to a personality.
It doesn't have to be unlearning, I don't think. A lot of people that create a magical personality when they're very, very young, and it is just a central part of themselves, and a lot of that is usually trauma-based. It's their little magical mind escape. And I'm not just talking about imaginary friends, but
no, and
yeah.
I think that some are just born with it. I mean, I know for me and maybe it's like this for, I don't know, a lot of people. I only know my experience, and for me, even when I was able to stand up on my own, I was outside picking rocks, and in some way they had purpose to me, and plants had purpose to me, and then as I got older, developing more about intentions and different social hierarchies and such. And but I'm really off the beaten path as a magical person. So I don't feel like I'm in the norm.
You're a unique beastie, as my mom would say. Just a unique beastie. Well, and I think, Gio, you bring up a really good point. There is no mold. There is no hard and fast rules except ethics and morals besides that. And so with magical personality, some people develop them without understanding that's what they're creating. And one of the reasons this is such a controversial question is because there are several people who believe that you're not allowed to. We all know how I feel about that word. You're not allowed to create that kind of thing without being a practiced witch, being a practitioner, without having some kind of initiation. And they're like, that's after you've gotten used to magic, that's when you develop your persona. And that is absolutely one school of thought, but it's not the only one. Like,
Right.
I didn't know magical personalities existed really. I'm kind of like, Gio, when we say it, in my opinion, this is part of you. This is not separate from the whole. It is a different aspect of you that happens to be more powerful, more wise, more manifesting. And so it's just a different aspect of you as a whole person. And that is an amazing experience to have, that kind of magical persona. And some people create it mindfully and curate it to look a certain way inside and out, the way you dress, the way you speak, the energy that you give off, while other people let it unfold naturally. Mine unfolded really naturally, and then just tiny little aspects, like aesthetically, I changed a little bit. But so for you guys in your magic personas, how did they manifest? Did they manifest when you were a kid? Did you do it mindfully? What was the process for you guys to create this magical aspect of your life that you would incorporate into your practice as a pagan?
I think more so because I've always understood since I was a little kid that there was this mother maiden crone within each of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when needed, depending upon the situation, one or the other appears. Because I mean, I've always had the perspective of the mother maiden crone in my mindset, and been able to kind of understand and differentiate those aspects of myself when needed. I mean, there was a time when I was a little kid and I was being abused, and the mother came out in me even though I was a kid. Things like this, where to me then, well, where does a magical persona fit in that hierarchy?
I'm gonna go back a little bit, and hopefully this will answer that and the school of thought that Lily brought up. She was saying about how there's a school of thought with other practices that you don't do a magical personality until you're seasoned.
Yes.
And I'm almost wondering, and I can't speak this for certain, but I'm almost wondering if it's because it can be misconstrued or closely related to summoning or creating thought forms or alternate living energies, where in this situation it's not invoking, evoking, or summoning. It's more so creating another part of your aura, your spirit, and your mind, if that makes sense.
It does. It's still hard to wrap around, but I think definitely throughout this podcast, it'll kind of help to shed more light on that.
I think it'll unfurl.
Yes.
The more we talk about it. And like, for it, when you get into your magical persona, you're basically, in lay terms, you're getting into the zone of being able to do a spell, of being able to meditate. You're getting into the zone. And so everyone's zone looks different. I mean, I know many athletes who, to get into the zone, they put their socks and shoes on a very interesting way.
Yes.
And that gets them in the zone. And
it does.
So these are our magical personas that we use, to do spell work and stuff. Absolutely. But this is not just limited to us in the magical realm. Like, getting in the zone is something that a lot of people can relate to in different aspects of their lives. I mean, writers have to be in the zone to write. As Gio well knows.
Yes, you're speaking my language, and now it's making sense to me. Thank you. No, in the zone.
Yep. That's what it means. Your magical persona, your magical personality is the aspect of you that is in the zone to create what you are meant to create. So for an athlete, that's doing athletic things, bless their cotton socks, for those of us who get winded walking upstairs. And for authors, it's being able to, I know, Gia, I know several authors who are like, I turned off my phone, and I'm like, how and why? And they're like, no, I'm writing for the next 3 hours. And in my psycho brain, I'm like, what if someone needs you? And they're like, no, because if my phone is going off for every text, for every email, even if it's on vibrate or whatever, that's going to be distracting you and taking you out of the zone. And so your magical personality is just that. And some of us, we've had it for a while, and others, curate it. And for those who curate it, I know that there are some fabulous questions that we've discussed before of where to start. So if this is something that comes naturally to you, fabulous. Bless your heart. That is wonderful. Amazing. For those of you who want to do this, let's go through some steps. And really the easiest way is starting with a few questions. Who, what, when, where, why. Start with the W's.
I'm sorry, before we go there, I just wanted to take what you were saying about a writer or a reader one step further.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times have you either got into a good book, either reading or writing, and you actually become an essence within the book?
All the time. You are in the story. It's, oh yeah, baby.
That's the way
do
I
it all
see
the time.
So that's the way I see magical personality. Who are you in that story? And as you're reading that story, you're feeling things, you're hearing things. So not only are you in the zone, but
Yes.
you're a character. You have assumed some of the scenery. You have assumed and assimilated with everything happening around you. You're not you, but you're you.
Yes, it's the energy, the environment, the personality. You are embodying all of it simultaneously in the most perfect, balanced manifestation of your magical self. I love it. I love it. That is, and the book thing, I'm like, oh my God, I love when I just melt into a book and you can you're standing in the field with her. You know you are, as the wind is blowing and you can smell fresh jasmine in the air and you're like, yes, I can, bitch. Yes, I can.
And when you're tra-la-la-la-lying into the story, you're not seeing you.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay.
But you can also be the girl in the meadow smelling the jasmine. I'm not, you don't always have to stand next to her. Sometimes you are her and you're like, I look really good in floral print. That's right.
Especially in romance novels, because it's a nice way to live vicariously through other people's fantasies, in which case sometimes it's kind of nice to put yourself in the main character's role and while reading it as if all these things are happening to you. It's not to sound a little cray cray, but it's
no, but I do that with fantasy too. I do. The one watching the dragon. I want to be riding the dragon. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So before we go into the W's, I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. And I'm not saying that the way I learned is the right way, or I'm not, like you said, there's not a mold. Mm-hmm. But the way that I was taught was very similar to creating a game avatar for like a video game.
Yes.
You meditate on what you want to look like, how tall you want to be, what you basically create a magical person that you can step into that has everything you could possibly want. Mm-hmm. So and for me, being that I'm not good around crowds, I'm very socially anxious. I don't have good self-esteem, so on and so on and so on. When I created my magical personality, she was carefree. She was okay to be as silly as she wanted to be. She was okay to be as expressive or not expressive as she wanted to be. Like, I made her into everything that I embraced and feared, and made it what I thought would have been the perfect version of myself.
I love that. And here's why. So like you said, one, I did not know that about you. I have always seen you as like this super intelligent, confidence, like fabulousness. So I did not know that about you. That is interesting.
Well,
But
that's why
it's
we're not on video yet.
yeah.
I gotta work through some stuff.
Like for me, what mine is, you say yours carefree and confident. And I am, for those of you who don't know me, I am a cartoon character come to life. I have stepped out of animation 100%. I am
Mhm.
loud, I am outrageous. So my magical personality, my magical persona is incredibly serious, is incredibly stoic, is incredibly laser focused. It is all the sword suit of tarot. It is not, and it's not confidence. The word that I use is certainty. It's like, oh, are you confident in your abilities? No, they are certain. There is certainty in it. And it's so interesting that like it is. Our magical self isn't meant to have the personality that we have, because when I think of myself as a person, oh yeah, cartoon character 100%, yes please. When I think of myself as a magical practitioner, I am incredibly serious and almost cold. And to me, I love that. That feels so empowering as a magical person, that I don't have to talk. I don't have to be loud. I don't have to be happy. I can just woo and do it. And so yeah, it's not meant to look like your personality if you don't want it to, if that's not what you're drawn to. And it can look the exact opposite, and they will look different. Not like I said, ours look totally different, and it's wild to see the range that our magical personalities can take, from one person to another. I love that.
So, I've kind of struggled because, I mean, like I said before, I mean, there is a personality and it's magical, but it's kind of different in a way. It's definitely more magically powerful than my mundane self. Um, I don't have in my mind specifically what she looks like, or good examples of her personality or characteristics. I mean, and I think it's tough because I think, and here's where I think training would be more helpful, because I've had mine since as long as I can remember. It's hard to differentiate between them when I have to think about it. Instead, they're just blended in a weird way, twisted like a money tree, braided together, and the looks and the slight personality changes are constantly changing. I don't know if that just means that I'm out of control or what, but it's just.
No, I think that brings up a good point, actually. So another question is, does your magical personality grow or change with you? And like
Always.
with Gia, it's a little bit of chaos theory. It's like, oh, it is all over the place, but it is so
Well,
powerful. It's a tornado that could kill somebody, but
it's
it's
something
fabulous.
I joke about often, but it is absolutely the truth about me.
Mm-hmm.
I am a walking contradiction of myself. And it's because I have always, my souls sit right on the border of the light and the dark. And I often have been, danced into the dark. I've danced into the light. That it's a controlled, it's chaos and it's order, which is so bizarre. Every bit of who I am is an oxymoron. And so it's kind of tough, I guess, for I guess personalities like myself to be able to sometimes distinguish between the two, because it depends upon the minute. I mean,
what I would say to that is that you have a healthy balance of them both in your mundane daily life. And not everybody can do that, and it's not really recommended. But in your situation, then what you would want to do is when you're stepping into your magical roles, pull the mundane one out.
Oh,
Let
that
the
would be
magical
something
one
good to
fly.
practice.
Yes, let the magical one fly, pull the mundane one out. I mean, that would be my suggestion.
I second that. I think that's a good way to see it and to work with it in that kind of situation.
I like it. I'll have to give it a try.
I love it. Like, I know that
I'll have
with
to give it a few
mine,
tries.
yes, a college try. I know with my magical personality, it has grown as I have grown, and it has. I almost feel like, so my grandpa was Catholic. Don't hold it against him. And he used to say, "No one ever changes; they just become more of who they are." And like, I'm well aware there are exceptions, and we're all transformational creatures. But I feel like for me and my magical personality, that is very true. That it's like, as I have grown within my paganism, within my solitary practice, within my community, that aspect of me has become more of who they really are, in a way. Like, they've grown up too, and I feel way more creative and way more powerful in that in that state when I'm doing magic work versus when I try to do magic work from my like cartoon character self. I'm not very effective in my cartoon character energy, believe it or not. Like, it's fun and awesome and I can attract positivity like a motherfucker, but that's it. Like, I can't do magic the way that I can through my magical personality.
I've got a question, and then I promise I'm not going to sidetrack us anymore, but it's got me really thinking philosophically about this. When it comes to the magic personality, is that something that we draw upon for our current mental state or more for our soul? And if it's our soul that is actually drawing this out and not our current physical and brain state, then if a person inhabits more than one soul, then would they have to create a magical personality for each soul?
My short answer would be yes, but I feel like there's a longer, more in-depth answer, that it's almost like the yin and the yang. I feel like they would almost be dance partners. So, they're both dancing to the same song, but they're two different dancers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was thinking, since she's already got them both incorporated into her daily life, like the magical and the mundane entwined so in depth, I don't know, you could make two or you could leave it as one, but have the characteristics of your light and dark within it. I've been thinking very strongly about leveling mine up a little bit. I was talking about video games before, and
yes.
Okay, so imagine that you're playing a video game and you're playing a battlegrounds, and the battlegrounds is your daily life challenges. And as you knock some things out, then these new things drop down for you to use as armor or loot, you could say. So I imagine my magical personality as I go through, like Lily was saying, as you go through life, you're leveling up. And your magical personality is leveling up with you.
Yes,
And I've
be
been
Mario,
thinking,
baby.
and I've
Which
been
is
thinking,
what our souls have to do as well with each lifetime.
right. And so I'm thinking with what you're saying, one of the things I want to do with mine is I want to, mine has always been all light and fluffy and has always been of embracing everything that I want within myself and just upping my strengths, like giving my strengths a level up. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about like the whole shadow work and leveling myself up in a different aspect and allowing some of that into my magical personality. Not saying shadow like in a harmful manner, like,
No.
but saying that, other parts of me are valuable also and incorporating that in.
Well, if you ever want to take a dance on the dark side, I can teach you how. Because I mean, I'm pretty fluid with that and the light side. I mean, it's really. I think it's I think it's more dangerous to assume that the dark side or shadow working is equivalent to something that is negative or evil, because there's aspects of negative and evil in both the light and the dark.
Yeah, you ever met someone with toxic positivity? That's
Fuck,
all
they
light, and
suck.
that is awful. So,
And I'm
yeah,
so sorry to any listeners out there who are always positive, but that shit sucks and you got to learn some new traits, cuz that
it
toxic positivity
is
is
not actually the human experience, and you're
no.
here to have a human experience. And
Yes.
so with that, there is, in like traditional Chinese medicine, they say you are meant to have the full spectrum of human emotion. That's
Yes.
sadness, grief, anger, frustration, happiness, glee, excitement. It's all of it. And so when someone's like, oh, it's always positive, and we don't mean be always negative either, don't be a
Right.
Debbie Downer shithead. What we're saying is have the beautiful human experience that you are meant to have, and that light, and when we say light and dark, specifically for us seeking the light of 1,000 suns, this podcast and what we talk about, light and dark, are energies. They are not equivalent to good and evil, and never will
Exactly.
be within our practices.
Thank
You
you.
can have your own practices. All listeners, please have your own practices. Whatever resonates with you, we respect and honor that. But when we talk about light and dark, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware. Like we say dark or shadow self, we in no way mean evil, mean, or bad. We just mean shadow self, because guess what? We all got one.
We do, and you have to embrace it, and you got to be willing to take that step in that direction even if it's scary. I mean, I know there's been times where I've played around in the dark side, and oh, it could be downright fucking terrifying when you allow it to be. But then when you don't allow it to be and you realize that it's really no different than the light side, it's just dark versus light.
Mhm.
Um
It's just a different
you
energy.
can
It's a different
yeah.
flavor on the
It
buffet of magic.
yes, but you learn a lot, right? So
Yeah.
when you snuff the fear out and you do dive in, there's so much to learn, and there's actually a lot of, in my opinion, exquisite beauty in the darkness as there is in the light.
Yes. There is equal amounts to learn in the darkness and the shadows as there is in the light. And it just depends on what you're drawn to and what you really want to focus on as your magical personality. So with our magical personalities, how I know how I like to get into it, get into the state, get into the alpha waves, get drop into the zone, so to speak. you know um we can kind of call it being triggered into a state, like it's that switch that flips that gets you to do something. So what I do to get myself to this customized actions that help me to get into this magical state is smell. I burn very specific incense when I'm doing very
Mm.
specific magical things, and that really helps me. I do deep breathing, I do grounding and centering, I do all the things for like my spiritual hygiene.
Mhm.
And then I use sense and a little bit of visualization. And then honestly, I relax, because when I am a tightly wound, stick up the butt, neurotic fucker, I am not living through my magical self. And let's be honest, my anxiety level and neurospiciness definitely have that happen occasionally, that I am tightly wound. But when I relax, and it's almost like allowing, and then that magical self just takes a step forward, and then just very calmly, I can feel it say in my soul, let's do this. And again, it's with certainty for me. And then I am able, and I can tell I am in a different state. I have gone into this state in front of my oldest friend. So our parents are best friends, and they were pregnant with us at the same time. So we are womb to tomb. We have known each other our entire lives. Friends in utero, baby.
I love that.
But when I first started dropping into my magical personality, she had seen it, she had experienced it, and she had said once, we were in the car and we were going to go visit her dying grandmother, and I was going to help her grandma cross the Rainbow Bridge, and she just said, I love watching you do this. And I said, what? And she's like, you're going to go silent and not speak for hours, and you can just tell that you are a different person and that you are going to move mountains in this moment. And I was like, oh, cool. Cause like I'm doing it. I don't see it from the outside. I didn't know it was such a change, like in my mannerisms and everything. And she's like, I love watching you just change, because you like melt into a completely different person. And so like that's how I do it. I definitely need triggers. And for everyone listening, please find your own, make them custom, make them fabulous. And it's trial and error. If it's not one smell, if it's not one taste, if it's not one something, like just keep trying. I know several people who listen to the same fucking song on repeat for hours for the entire spell. Like that is their way to stay in the zone, is to just play on repeat the same song, no matter what that song is for them. So getting into this state of your magical personality is different for everybody, and I believe that using your senses is really nice. So again, deep breathing, taste, sound, touch, smell, do it up. So how, and if you guys want to put in the comments as you're watching what triggers you into your state, or what you love most about your magical personality, we would love to hear from you, because they are so diverse and different that it's good to know that there are so many different variations of this that make us beautiful and powerful. But my co-host, what do you guys do to trigger this transformation into this powerful being who can manifest the future?
Well, mine's definitely dependent upon the necessity. Um when I'm feeling playful, when I want to work with my garden herbs and do a blessing or spell, it's both tactile, visual, and scent. Sometimes I'll go with the sound that it makes. I chose as my magical personality as the first name Gia, the last name Storm. And I am a storm. And I definitely, when it's windy out, I like to harness the wind energy. I like to feel it through every sense of my being. When it's warm, I love to feel that heat upon my skin and just soak in that energy. Same with when it's rain. I like the rain. I'm not fond of the cold. I will say that definitely puts a damper on my magical mood. I'm a very electric person. I have a strange relationship with electricity, and I always have. And I noticed that when my magical self is more triggered, depending upon the reason for the triggering and depending upon my mood, it can either be a beneficial thing to electrical, or it could be a really bad thing. When it comes to like rituals and stuff, I really just like to fully submerge myself with all my senses. I really do. Um, Same with when it comes to trying to get to know someone else's magical side. I'm like a kid in a candy store when I see that other people have allowed their shield to be let down to show their magical side. It's intriguing to me.
Yeah, it's really cool to see other people's magical personalities and experience them. I think group rituals and stuff are a great place to do that, or coven work, or groups, close groups of friends. And that's all. It's amazingly beautiful to see that side of someone and get to experience it. I think it's an incredibly powerful thing.
Absolutely.
I can't
Maya, what do you do to
I can't
activate yours?
remember who the famous witch book author was, and I wish I could credit them because um, my very first thing was actually from a book, and I don't want to credit the wrong author. That's why I'm not saying I could be one of many because I've read a lot of books, but um, basically they taught creating a trigger with snapping your fingers, like
Mm-hmm.
you could snap your fingers, and with that noise and with that action, you can actually like even put some visual or some energy to it. So like when you snap them, shit sparkles or whatever. And then
Mm.
um, I tried that a couple times for as a beginner, and I didn't really feel like that really worked for me. I thought it was a really cool idea with me being audio, but it didn't really work for me. What did work for me is um, ritual garb of some kind. I've made a lot of jewelry with crystals. I have certain clothing that I wear just for ritual purposes. And if I don't have those things around me, I almost like if I'm not prepared and I want to do something magical, I almost present the feeling of like a cloak so that I'm still putting on something different than what I'm currently wearing. And that became my mental trigger, is actually putting something on.
Donning the clothes. Oh my god. I love that. So magical garb is not something that I do. Like I wear hats all the time for my practice and like for protection and everything. I have always wanted to get into magical garb though. That you put on a robe, a tunic, a cape. Oh, that makes me so happy. That just I'm so excited for you. That is amazing. I love it. I love it. Yay.
It really can be anything, you know. A lot of people will use a certain jewelry piece, or just any special thing that's only used for magical time.
Yeah, I definitely want to get more into that. Wearing different jewelry specifically for like different spell work and stuff. I love that. That is awesome. So we all of us here have our names up on our screen. Listeners can't see it, but we all have our names up on our screens while we're talking. And so with your magical personality can come a magical name or a holy name. And I know, like, how did you guys get yours? So Gia, you told us your story. Maya, how did you get your name?
I wanted again to identify with both my magical self and my mundane self. Um, so Maya is mother. Um, Sky would be adventurous and brave, and then Rika is the power of the wolf. And there's a lot of mothering nature and stuff within me, and I also love the goddess Isis. She's been a wonderful mother to me. And then there's also a lot of other magical meanings to the name Maya. Adventurous and brave. Remember, I made my personality something that I really struggle with in my daily life. I made my magical personality brave and carefree and um, not afraid to lay things out on the line, not afraid to say things out loud, not afraid to show herself, in various scenarios or situations.
I
And
love that.
the wolf has been a part of my life for a very, very, very long time. I have not seen the wolf for quite some time in my most recent, but I'm also not as connected as I have been in my past either. I'm not as magically connected to everything as I normally would be.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to bring the wolf in. I actually had an experience in Colorado, which was absolutely amazing, where we got to actually go into a wolf sanctuary and spend time with wolves. I'll have to share a picture with you. It was so amazing. One of them, I can't remember the wolf's name, it also started with an M, took to me immediately. And actually, we were one of the last picture takers. And so we had to wait for everybody to have all their pictures taken. And there were ladies that were downright jealous because not only did he stay on the rock with me, that he didn't with anyone else, but he laid down, bared his belly, gave me pit kisses, and kept trying to kick Aaron off the rock.
That is just amazing. And like with our magical names, as both of you have said, it was an incredibly mindful decision, and it took into account like who you are magically and what you want to symbolize and everything.
One other thing too, I mean, just in case anybody else has gone through this, I shortened my actual first name, and I did so because my first name has never in my life allowed me to be taken seriously by anyone. People say my first name and it's either a joke or they're looking down upon me as if some little kid, which nothing wrong with kids, but there comes a time and a place and the way people do things, and there's a lot of condescending nature towards me because of my first name. However, with shortening it, there's strength and there's a sense of fuck off in the new name, which gives me a little bit more power in this world, a power in which I've never had to be taken seriously. So that's kind of another thought too.
Yeah, it can originate from your name, and like Gia said, like it's
necessity.
It's about necessity, feeling who you are, representing to the world, not just the magical world, but the world, how you want to be represented and how you want to be treated and respected. And so you can mindfully pick your name, and there are many different ways to do it. Like we said, numerology and all that stuff. Another way is that, so my name I actually didn't pick at all. And I was 17 and I was laying on a massage table and I was getting Reiki done. And during that, I went into like this deep state of meditation and it came to me. And so my holy name is actually a variation of my business name. So I got my holy name when I was 17 and it was Light of the Lily. And so that's my actual like magical name. And my mom always said, "You're Lily like a flower, not a drug company." So every time someone's like Lilly, I'm like, no, just the flower. Stop trying to make it weird. And then so when I went to make my business, my magical business, to help people, to be a psychic spiritual advisor, to do all that stuff, I wanted to use my holy name and I felt drawn to do that. And when I Googled it, it was a Christian business. And I didn't want to have to like compete with like Google algorithms or anything like that. So I switched it to Lily of the Light to make it, and now that's been it for years and years, and I love it. And everyone calls me Lily because that is my name, and it's like, but my holy name is Lily of the Light. And I think I know several people, many people who legally change their name to their magical name. And I think that's cool. If you want to do it, great. If you don't want to do it, great. You know? So I think that is an option. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to be David anymore, you don't gotta fucking be David. You can be Ravenstone Birdfucker. You can be a different name. So that's how mine came about. I had no choice over my name at all. I did not mindfully choose it. It came to me in a meditation, and it felt right. And I spoke to my mentor about it after it was gifted to me. And she was like, no, that's your holy name. That's what you will be called for the rest of your life. And I was like, yeah. So even when most of the time, if you guys see me out at events like the Samhain Symposium in October, most of the time I introduce myself as Lily of the Light instead of Lily McNamara. Lily McNamara is my name, but I will introduce myself as Lily of the Light most of the time.
That's so cool.
I'm rather fond of it. It's nice.
You brought me to thinking about the school of thought when you were talking about, changing it to legal names and stuff like that. And there's a school of thought out there too, where because words have power, there's a lot of also people that believe that you don't share your magical name because then people can't do spells and things against you.
Correct.
So, like, for example, you would only share it with, certain or special people if you share it at all, or within a coven or a training circle or a circle of like-minded people. But a lot of people believe that your magical name is kind of something that you keep private as a form of protection, especially since it goes back to the witch trials and stuff like that too.
And
The
it
witch
was
hunt.
explained to me that it's a gift that you do not share right away, and then when you share it with selective people. So it took me years. Like, I got it when I was 17. I ain't 17 no more. It's been 2 decades, and like it took a long time for me to tell anyone besides my mother, like a few years. And then after that, like for the next, God, I want to say 5 to 7 years, there was only a handful of people who knew it. And then after that 5 to 7 years, I started using it more on a regular basis. And then in the past 7 years, 6, 7 years, I use it on a regular basis. But yeah, people can use it in spell work against you. I know people who actually don't they go by nicknames all the time. So that like it's a nickname that they like and they identify as it, but no one knows their legal name and no one knows their magical name. I know people who are that protective of their information. And I mean, if that's what you feel drawn to do, bless you. Absolutely, 100%. Tell me what you want to be called and I will call you it.
And no one's to say that you can't change it either. Mine didn't start as Maya Skyrika. Mine started as a whole different name, and I rededicated myself and my name because I was turning a new leaf. I was coming into a new part of my life. And so there's nothing that says that you have to stick to anything that you create either.
Exactly. We're all ever evolving beings, and it is fabulous and amazing. And your magical personality and your magical name can all evolve and change. And so we're almost out of time, but just remember, as you're going through this process of discovering and creating your magical personality and your magical name, whether it's gifted to you through meditation or whether you create it with intention, start with who, what, when, where, and why. And those will be great questions. What characteristics do you want them to have? When do you want your magical personality to come out? Why are you creating this? And be honest with yourself. If you're creating it to be a bad bitch, just say it. Just say it. Mine got created because I wanted to get shit done. Yep. I wanted it to be effective. That was the main purpose. My why was effective. So be honest with yourself as you are creating this, and know that it is trial and error and a constant growth, and it's absolutely beautiful. Do you guys have any final comments or stories or questions that we want to ask each other about magical personalities or magical names or anything in this realm of awesomeness that we have been discussing?
No, I think we've covered it. I mean, I'm still looping in different philosophical thoughts, but I'm just an overthinker. So
it's an endearing quality, I swear.
Okay.
I'm going to put some podcast extras out on the website and on the Facebook page on techniques on finding or questions for asking yourself, or how some people will make it a ritual in dedication or in meditation or whatever, and just put a couple things out there so that if people want to explore it and they don't know where to start, there's a few things that they can refer to. In no means am I saying that it's a right way or the only way. I'm just saying that I'll put some materials out.
That there are resources available, and that's great. And remember that if you are having trouble or you're feeling stuck, you can always schedule a session with me, Lily of the Light. This is what I do all day, every day, is help people with these kinds of questions. So use the free resources that Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns offers, and use it as a great jumping off point. And if you get stuck, you can always reach out. And remember to like and share this to the people who you think, may find this cool or interesting, or who are starting off on this path and you think it could really help them. We would love it if you guys engaged with the podcast, wherever you feel drawn to, or think something's cool, or have a question, bop it out there. We are all friendly, all three of us. None of us bite often. So as far as this podcast goes, I want to thank my co-hosts Gia and Maya so much for all of their wisdom and true diversity that we bring. We are all incredibly unique people and very different. And so having these discussions and allowing you guys to see that there are different ways to do it and still live in harmony and respect each other is really important for the growth of our community at large, and also within these small groups that we are creating. We love the fact that you are a part of this community, and that you chose to listen to Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns, and that you want to be a part of this. We welcome you, we celebrate you, and we honor all of your fabulous uniqueness. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and don't forget that we are here as your community to help and support you in your magical experiences.
Thank you.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.